Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Advisor. I am Lisa Urbanski, co-host of the show, coming in from Canada, here today with Alex Hristov. So imagine having everything, career, love, and a fulfilling life, only to have it all come crashing down. So after years of failed medical diagnosis, today's guest found himself bedridden for 5 years, his confidence shattered, and his hope nearly gone. But instead of giving up, he did something remarkable. So through cognitive reframing and the precision of an engineer's mind, he rewired his thinking, diagnosed himself, and designed his own recovery program. So he didn't just get his life back, he built an entirely new version of himself. Now, with unshakable confidence, he is helping others do the same. So get ready for an incredible conversation. The last time Alex was on the show, he talked about resilience. He's got a website called superself.me. And today he's going to introduce the topic of accomplishments being a core part of confidence. And he's going to give us some simple exercises too on that topic. So welcome back to the show, Alex. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Yeah, we were just talking about how far apart we are from each other. You're where
Very far.
again? Where again are you?
Atlanta.
Atlanta to
Yep.
Winnipeg. So I wonder how many kilometers that would be.
300. No, I don't know. I'm being silly, obviously. I'm guessing it's several thousand.
Yes, I'm so bad at directions. That's not my
It's
strong point.
about 700 miles to Detroit. I know that,
Okay. Okay.
which would be, I don't know, 1,300 kilometers or 15, something like that.
Okay.
So maybe 2,000 kilometers to Winnipeg.
Fair. Okay. So that'll be a plane right away. Well, it's
Yep.
nice to see you today. Thanks for
You
being
as
on the
well.
show.
Thanks for having me.
So what are we talking about today? You're going to give us some exercises, but what are we talking about? What's the subject? And do you want to maybe introduce yourself? So it's not
Sure.
so formal. Tell us who you are.
I am Alex Hristov. I'm a former engineer. I have two bachelor's degrees, both in engineering. As per your intro, I went through roughly a decade of doctor's visits for a bunch of symptoms I had. Um, Eventually, things got so bad I had to stop working. It cost me my marriage. Literally, it cost everything. I ended up moving back to my parents' house and spent half a decade in bed.
Mhm.
Going through all the terrible things you can imagine: depression, loss, no hope, and on and on and on. So I had to figure out what to do with the situation. And I started coming up with little mental exercises for myself, which sometime later on, as I was reading various medical and psychological journals, I realized that what I was doing was actually a well established method used clinically called cognitive reframing.
Mhm.
In other words, uh, it's rewiring your brain.
Right.
Um, so there are a lot of cool, simple exercises. There are a lot of ways to kind of hack your brain to how do I say it? It's all about changing your perspective ultimately. And that's what I wanted to do today is I wanted to give listeners and viewers a couple of quick exercises they can do to boost their confidence.
Mm.
If they're facing something, a challenge, they're unsure of themselves, whatever it may be, if you need a boost of confidence. And the key here is that these exercises are not, so if people go back to past episodes, Stacey and I have talked a lot about affirmations and how affirmations are generally not very effective because for the most part, we know that we're just saying a thing for the sake of saying it because somebody told us it works. Where in reality it doesn't because 99% of the time it's not based on fact. So
Mm.
for affirmations to work, we have to base them on facts. So you say the affirmation, you add the word because, and then you give facts from your own life. That's when they work. So these two exercises are really simple, and that's what they're based on. And as with any new habit forming, the key is consistency.
Mm.
So if you guys are ready, I'll just get right into it.
I think we're ready.
Okay. So the first one is very simple. When you're unsure of yourself, you have a big challenge coming up, or whatever it may be, you're not sure you can get through it. What you do is you go back to the most difficult thing you've ever been through. Maybe it was professional, maybe it was personal, whatever it may have been. Think about how you felt then. Remember all the details, how tough it was, and on and on and on, right? Bring it back, make it real, go back to that place.
Mm.
And the key here is that you're still here today. So you made it through whatever that was. So that is factual evidence from your own life that you're capable of handling difficult things. You're capable of making it through difficult things. You're resilient, you're strong, you have the drive, you have whatever it takes to make it through something difficult. Very simple exercise. Again, the key, as with any other habit forming, cognitive reframing, whatever you want to call it, is consistency. Whenever you feel unsure, go back to that and remind yourself, hang on a second, I made it through that. Well, if I can make it through that, I can make it through this. It doesn't mean it's going to be easier. It doesn't mean it's not going to suck. Maybe it'll be horrible. Who knows? But the point is, you have evidence from your own life that you're able to get through whatever that challenge is. So, very simple exercise.
Can I ask you a personal question? Are you
Sure.
open to sharing with the audience what that difficult time is for you? What experience do you go back in time on to tap into when you're going through a challenge, typically?
Now it's naturally become those 5 years of hell.
Mm.
I had to generate hope from thin air. And I can give you a super easy exercise for that as well.
Ooh, we get extra. I love it.
It goes kind of like this. So as my life fell apart around me and everything went up in flames, naturally, I went into a heavy depression, which is a small side note. It was very interesting because I didn't really realize what was going on. And this was the very first kind of glimpse that I had of being able to reprogram yourself. So I went into this heavy depression, and finally it dawned on me that I'm depressed because I'm mourning. And it was like,
You were
I'm
depressed
grieving.
because you were mourning? Oh, okay.
I was mourning, literally
Right.
mourning. When I really started to think about what am I feeling, it was like, well, I'm at somebody's funeral, somebody who I love. And then I'm like, well, nobody died. What happened? And finally it dawned on me. It was my funeral because my entire life was now gone. All I had was a room in my parents' house. And when I could, I'd go downstairs, I'd eat, I'd maybe sit in the backyard for a few minutes. But that was it. And so then I thought to myself, okay, I get why I'm depressed, heavily depressed. Now, what the hell do I do with it? And so then I started thinking about, well, what is it that's keeping me from getting out of this? And I thought about it, and I realized that the future to me was basically like a black corridor, no doors, no windows, nothing, just going on forever, narrow black corridor. And I thought, well, this is super miserable. I don't want to live anymore. I literally don't want to live. So what the hell do I do with that? And I came up with two things. And this is, again, key to any kind of changing of your mentality is you have to base things on facts. So I thought to myself, well, I can't just think positive thoughts. if I'm doing that, I'm pretending that what happened to me, that all this loss that occurred, I'm pretending it didn't happen. And, that's the path to insanity. You can't just pretend things didn't happen. They did. So I'm like, well, okay, so I can't just think positive thoughts. However, and these are the facts, these are the two facts I came up with. One is I don't know the future. And the second is I consider myself a fair person. So then I owe it to myself to be fair to myself, which means that since I don't know the future, randomly, I'm guessing it'll be 50-50, good or bad. So when I have these terrible thoughts of what my future is going to look like, I'll have the bad ones, the dark ones, because they're legitimate. I'm going through something. I have these feelings. They are real. So yes, I'll have those thoughts. But when I feel those thoughts, I'm also going to give myself a positive version. And in my head, it was relatively simple. I was thinking about what's the opposite of dark corridor. Well, it's a sunny field, grass, trees, whatever. And so I made this a regular thing where when I saw the dark corridor, I would go, hold on, I owe it to myself to see the other version. And a very interesting thing started happening, which is the time that the dark corridor took started becoming smaller in terms of like thinking about it. And then the time I spent thinking about the good version started becoming bigger until it got to the point where as soon as I had an inkling of those dark thoughts coming, I would simply go, you know what? I'm not interested. I'm focusing on this other thing. So again, that was kind of like my intro, my mind-blowing moment of how you can reprogram yourself. I mean, I literally got myself out of depression with nothing but, just a stupid little exercise that I came up with, which turned out to not be stupid at all.
I was just going to say, it doesn't sound so stupid after all. To give you the
No,
ability to
it was
change
incredible.
the story that you were telling yourself changed your life. That's pretty incredible.
Correct. And again, the key is it was based on facts, right? The two facts are I don't know the future and I consider myself a fair person. Because if we're not adding facts, whatever it is we're telling ourselves, we know that we're just telling ourselves. We know we're probably lying to ourselves, right? If you say something like, today is going to be my day, that doesn't really work because today is going to be my day. It's not based on any facts, number one. Number two, it requires the rest of the universe to decide to revolve around us and make everything happen in a way that makes us happy. That's incredibly unrealistic.
So how would you reframe that statement then?
Well, I wouldn't have that statement at all because I don't know what's going to happen today.
Right. So what would you say instead?
Well, it depends on what's going on. If I have a job interview, I would say, well, today I'm going to go into this thing knowing that I have such and such experience. I have such and such skills. I've worked on such and such projects. I've given, such and such demonstrations and on and on and on. In other words, I would give all the factual reasons from my own life of why I'm going to be okay doing this thing. I don't know what the outcome will be because the outcome doesn't depend only on me. I may be the perfect candidate, but whoever's interviewing me may be in a bad mood, or maybe they just don't like my hair or whatever it may be, and they may not hire me. Or maybe they want to hire me, but 2 days later, before they're able to give me an offer, the bean counters come in and say, budget slash. So, right, we don't know what the future is going to be. So we can't hang our hopes on it. What we can do is go into something with the mentality that we're capable of doing this. So we're going to give ourselves a good shot at being successful. And if we're not, so be it. Move on to the next thing.
I like that. No expectations, going in with an open mind, and just letting the universe deliver and kind of taking it as it comes.
Yeah, and I mean, again, the key is to rely on facts from our own life that, you know, we're going to do well or we're going to do our best. And the rest, it's going to be what it's going to be.
Yeah. So what was it like? What was the very first thing you did when you started feeling better and like picking your life back up? Like, how did you start teaching yourself cognitive reframing? Do you remember the turning point and how that came into fruition and where that began?
Well, the turning point was what I talked about a couple minutes ago, which was getting out of that depression.
Hmm.
At that point, I realized that, okay, I've stumbled onto something really, really powerful. Now, what do I do with it? Um,
Did you learn it from someone? Did you have a mentor? Because I know when you're in a really deep depression, like it's a dark, dark place, right?
it's a
And
dark place.
so it takes something really significant to kind of pull you up for a second, and then you can grab onto it. So do you know what that was? Can you pinpoint that?
No, there was nothing really. It was purely survival. I mean, I had
Mm,
things had gotten so bad that I genuinely considered suicide. I decided how I'm going to do it. I had all the things
mm.
needed in my Amazon cart. All I had to do was click buy. Um, but I've always simply loved life. It hasn't always been great, but I've always loved it. I've always wanted to know what's going to happen tomorrow. I've
Mm.
always wanted to see my friends one more time, to see my family one more time, to do whatever it may be.
Right.
Um, so, this idea of suicide had nothing to do with I don't want to be alive. It had to do with I need a way to escape the physical pain that I'm in. Um, but yeah, I mean, there was no particular turning point. It was just a matter of I need to figure out how to survive. And the first part was I can't focus on anything until I'm out of this depression. So then
Hmm.
once I got out of the depression, then I could start doing things like reading medical journals to try to figure out what's wrong with me, to diagnose it. At the same time, figuring out various mental exercises to continue getting out of bed every morning and making it through the day, and so on and so forth. In other words, resilience. And I gave a few examples of those in the last episode. Um, so yeah, and since I made it out of that, which that 5 years is what I call the dark years. So when this whole conversation started with you asking me, well, what do you rely on? What do you look back on? It's those 5 years where I figured out that I can decide how I think and that it's real. I diagnosed myself. I came up with a rehab program for myself. And then I had to re enter the world, which was really, really weird. Very, very existential
Mm.
thing. Again, depression. There was naturally a lot of anxiety. I mean, when you're used to seeing nothing but a house and a backyard, uh, a simple thing like taking a walk and looking at the trees and looking at the sky, the clouds, I don't even know how to put it into words. It was all so alien that I didn't know what to do with it. It was like all of a sudden I questioned my own existence. What am I?
Mm.
So yeah, I had to go through all that. Over the years, a lot of friends had moved away, so I had to make new friends. Um, I'd never used dating apps before, got on those.
That's a
Had to
whole
figure
nother
out.
podcast.
Oh yeah. Um, but yeah, did all that. Started a business, and but yeah, when I think about doing something difficult, I go back to those times, and I'm like, you know what? Literally, I can do anything. And that was part of my thought during those years was, you know, regular people have it so easy. Like regular life is child's play. If I can ever get out of this,
Mhm.
I'm going to do whatever the hell I want to do. Like nothing is stopping me. And to a significant degree, if I'm scared or anxious of doing something, I'm like, no, no, hold on. A few years ago, I told myself, if I ever get out of that, nothing is stopping me again. So I may be anxious, I may be scared, but I made a promise to myself. So here we go. And that's that.
Yeah, and at the beginning of the episode, I know you wanted to touch on this a little bit, but you wanted to talk about how accomplishments are a core part of confidence. So do you want to touch on
So,
that?
yep, accomplishments are very important. I mean, there's really three parts. There are three things that lead to someone being confident. The easy one is physical exercise. Like it or not, if you exercise, you will feel more confident. There's just no way around it. Exercise creates all kinds of awesome juices in your brain, and you're going to get a good high. I don't care how you feel. The other is mental health. We all know there's a million books and podcasts and everything on mental health. But the third, and these are in no particular order, the third is accomplishments, because accomplishments allow us to lean on something. They are, again, we're talking about factual evidence. They are factual evidence that we are capable. So this exercise is super simple. It'll take a few minutes, but it's super simple. Basically, write a list of everything you've ever done.
Mm.
I'm not going to bother with tying your shoelaces, but let's say start with high school. All the classes you've taken, all the exams, if you've had AP classes, if you've done any kind of projects, if you've done sports, if you've done extracurriculars, do all that. If you've graduated from high school, write that down. Same thing for college. If you didn't go to college, write down what you did after high school. A lot of people who don't go to college, they had to, right out of high school, basically fend for themselves and potentially fend for others as well. All these things that you've done, write them down on a list. Professionally, all the jobs you've ever been hired for, all the raises you've gotten, all the promotions, all the big projects you worked on, all the recognitions, write everything down. And here is actually the key, because we are really terrible at valuing our own accomplishments, but we're really good at looking at others going, oh, well, he did that or she did this and blah, 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 blah. So what you have to do now that you've written your list, everything that you see on there that you're like, well, that's not really an accomplishment, take it off your list and put it on everybody else's list. And now think about, oh man, everybody's done that, but I haven't. If that makes you feel not so great, that means that is an accomplishment. Put it back on your list.
Mm.
So now that you have that entire list, anytime you're unsure of yourself, remind yourself, look at that list. Hold on, I have actually accomplished all these things. They are factual proof that I am capable. I'm capable of learning new things. I'm capable of, how do I say this? I'm capable of working for a prolonged period of time towards a specific goal, right? Which means I am resilient. I'm capable of making it through difficulties, through so on and so forth, whatever it may be.
I have one for you. I'm capable of showing up on a podcast and inspiring your audience to
Absolutely.
be more confident.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So those two exercises, the most difficult thing you've ever been through and the accomplishments, do those regularly. Because so everybody talks about consistency.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to tell people exactly why consistency matters. And it has to do with the way the brain works. So if you imagine that the brain, I wish I could draw on this screen, but I can't. And anyway,
Oh, you
some
need a
people are just
whiteboard
listening to
behind you
this.
for the next episode.
Well, I have a whiteboard, but a lot of people are simply listening to this rather than watching it.
That's true. Let's give them a visual.
Let me try to describe it. Imagine the brain is an endless reservoir of water. Now, if one day Okay, I'll take kind of like the classic thing, which is people tell you you're not good enough. So as you're growing up, people tell you you're not good enough. So one day you say, I'm not good enough. What you've just done is created a tiny little stream from one point to another. So these are neural pathways. You've created that tiny little stream. If you never repeat that to yourself again, that stream is going to dry up and disappear. But if you continue repeating it to yourself, it's going to become a bigger stream and a bigger stream and a bigger stream. And at some point, it becomes a river. And
Mm.
it's a big raging river that you can't get out of.
Hmm.
You can try to put a dam across it, but that's not going to work for long. The river will break the dam. So if this particular neural pathway or this river is I'm not good enough, that now becomes a part of your identity. So if you can't put a dam across it, what the hell do you do with it? What you do is you come up with again, factual evidence of why you are good enough. And every time you have that thought, I'm not good enough, you follow it up with, I am good enough because blah, blah, blah. You list out the reasons. So now what you're doing is you're taking a tiny little stream off of that river and you send it off in a different direction. And the more you do that, the bigger that stream gets. And as it gets bigger and you're rerouting the water in a different direction, you start starving this river of its water to the point where if you do it enough, this river of I'm not good enough is now dry because everything's been rerouted to the I am good enough river. And this is actually biologically how the brain works.
Hmm.
A book that I call my Bible is The Brain That Changes Itself. It's written by a medical doctor. Anybody who hasn't read it, go read it. It's amazing, and it talks about exactly this. It's rewiring your brain, rewiring anything else. When you think about motor memory, so athletes, if you take I don't know, any professional athlete, let's say tennis, and a tennis player, if you ask them to screw up their serve, they actually have to work at screwing it up because
Totally.
they've done it so many times that it's now automatic. They are stuck in that river now of the optimum serve.
Hmm.
And to screw it up, they actually have to work at it all the time. Um, Actually, I have an even bigger example. You guys are going to have to go to YouTube for this. There's a guy who took the handlebars on his bike and made them so you actually have to turn the opposite way. So to
Oh
turn left,
God,
yeah,
that's
exactly.
terrifying.
To turn left, you turn the handlebars to the right, and vice versa. The amazing thing is, so at first, he built this bike, and first few times he tried it, naturally he fell over immediately, and he's like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna kill myself. There's no way. But
Yeah.
he stuck with it, and eventually he figured it out, and it started being second nature. Okay, this all sounds fine, right? You practice something, you become good at it. Now here's the plot twist, which is once he figured out how to ride this bike, he said, okay, I've proven you can do it. So now I'm going to go back to a normal bike. And he couldn't do it because
Wow.
he had rewired his brain. That muscle memory was gone and it was now rewritten with something else. So he had to go through that whole period of relearning how to steer a bike just to get back to normal.
Wow. Yeah, that's a
So,
pretty powerful example.
and that's how the brain works. That's why consistency matters.
Mm. Do you want
So,
to
as
tell
far
us?
as
Sorry, I interrupted
no,
you.
I was just going to say, as far as these two exercises go, you got to be consistent. Anytime you're unsure of yourself, do these exercises. I mean, every single time. And eventually it'll sink in and you won't even have to do it anymore. It kind of becomes a built-in thing where something comes up and you're like, I'm not sure, but well, you know what? I'm going to do it. It may not be successful, but I'm going to do it because I know how to do things.
Amazing. Do you want to tell us about superself.me?
So I am, for all intents and purposes, superself.me. That's the domain for my website. It explains everything I do. It allows people to subscribe to my newsletter. I literally give everything away for free. Everything's in the newsletter. I'm constantly adding new things to the newsletter. If you don't want to read the newsletter, there's a blog section. There's even more stuff there than there is currently in the newsletter. And also, that's where you would go if you're looking for help with confidence or forming positive habits. That's where you would go to book an appointment with me. We'll chat. If we decide we're a good fit, then you can hire me.
Amazing, amazing. Now, before we wrap up for today, do you want to leave our listeners with a last statement or some kind of advice?
A last statement.
Your mic drop moment, Alex.
Um, okay, here's the thing. A lot of us struggle most of our lives to get to something. Now, since we're talking about wellness and whatnot, we'll talk in the context of changing in some kind of positive way, changing some bad habit. And a lot of us fail time and time and time and time again. And I'm here to tell you that that is a normal process, that actually the world is built on that kind of a failure. So the engineers who are listening will understand this right away. For those who aren't engineers, I'm going to tell you how it works. In engineering, there's no such thing as success on the first try. Depending on how big the project is, there may be tens of iterations, there may be hundreds, there may be thousands, meaning there will likely be thousands of failures before success, before the product actually works the way it's intended to do. So if you have failed at something 100, 1,000 times, you know what? You don't know that the next one won't work. Naturally, the key is from every failure, you're trying to learn what you did wrong and you apply it next time. And you just keep doing that. And eventually, those positive changes will happen.
I love
So
that.
that's a very long mic drop, but that's what it is.
No, you're allowed. It's your mic drop. You can do whatever you want. Well, I love everything you talked about today. And I've been through similar experience in my life where I had to pick myself up again and learn how to live again and almost being reborn. And so as you were
Yep.
speaking, I was feeling those things in my nervous system. And you're right. You have to keep going, keep trying, repetition,
Yep.
rewiring, and it's not easy. You just got to keep showing up.
Yep. Yep. But, and again, the key always is base what you're doing on facts and be consistent. If you do just those two things, it'll make a world of difference.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks, Lisa.
Do you know what our next episode is going to be like?
I have no idea. I tend
Okay.
to come up with what I want to talk about on these things like the day of.
Okay.
This
Okay.
one was a little different, but
Well, we'll leave it in the air then, and our listeners will have to tune in next time to hear
yep,
from you again. So thank you for being here. It's been a
yep.
pleasure. And
Thank you
to
very much.
all of you guys out there listening, thank you for tuning into The Advisor. Before we go, I do want to thank our sponsor, iHeartRadio and Speaker. Without you, this conversation would not have happened. So till next time, I'm Lisa Urbanski with The Advisor. Bye for now.